Yo, what is good, everybody? It is your boy, Golden Falls, Golden What Ifs, whatever you want to call me, and I am back. This is a brand new What If. What if Deku had a Bard Quirk? And yeah, I think someone did suggest this. I thought it was an amazing idea. I don't remember who it was off the top of my head, so I do apologize on that regard. If this was you who commented this, or let's say maybe you commented this in the past, please say something in the comment section. I appreciate the suggestion. I thought the suggestion was great, so I decided, hey, let's do it. What if Deku had a Bard Quirk? And yeah, I don't want to waste that much more of your time though, so I want to get right into the what if. Let's get it. Izuku Midoriya was born into a world full of quirks, or, well, somewhat superpowers. These quirks could range from massive explosions to stuff as simple as, I don't know, being slightly taller than the normal person. Now, Izuku, on the other hand, initially wasn't showing any signs of having a quirk, but he had a really strong affinity with utilizing kind of these instruments. He's always been good at like every instrument, even at a young age, and his mother really thought he was just some sort of prodigy. But it actually led to this this time where when he's around 5 or 6 years old, he would be a slightly late bloomer. He would be told that he actually does have a quirk, but his quirk is interesting. Initially, the people think that it's actually some music type of quirk, but that's not exactly what it is. He thinks initially that, or they think initially that it is some sort of music quirk, but it's not actually a music quirk. It's so much more than just that. It seems like Izuku actually takes on and channels the powers of a bard. Now, it is filtered through music, but Izuku learns that he actually can cast spells, he can basically enhance other people, and so on and so forth, and he has massive affinities with various different types of weapons. Now, this is when Izuku is pretty shocked by this. I mean, at the end of the day, he never knew this would be a thing, but he has an affinity with a violin and also some other stuff as well. Now, it all starts with him utilizing a violin, but of course you can't fight with the violin. So he decides that he's going to try his hand on using different weapons, and he tries quite a few different things, but a lot of it doesn't really work. That's until he gets to a basic sort of bow of some sorts. And when he's utilizing a bow, he can feel that he has affinity with that said bow. And on top of that, he would eventually also use something known as a rapier. And when he would utilize it, he would find affinity with that as well, utilizing both of those weapons when he's younger. And he would actually go on to basically train and work hard in those type of subjects. Now, he would learn how to use the sword or the rapier and also do some training with the bow, but he would continue kind of learning more and more about utilizing the violin, and that's exactly kind of where most of his focus would actually go. And through utilization of this so-called violin, he's able to actually cast spells, in which his spell usage is pretty basic for the moment, but he actually learns a spell that actually gets people to stop messing with him, and that is Vicious Mockery. Vicious Mockery is a simple spell, at least for the most part. It's when you insult somebody, a creature, a person, or something of the sorts, and let's just say they feel kind of harsh in terms of trying to retaliate the next time. It seems like when Izuku would mock somebody, or basically mock somebody back after they would try to bully him, when he would mock them, it would actually make it so it was so much more difficult to actually hit Izuku or even respond normally after the fact. It's a very odd concept, but Izuku finds out that if he really wants to get the advantage on people, he could do so. And he continues to learn different cantrips or different spells, and that's when he basically learns all the capabilities that he currently has, because Izuku is going to gain even more capabilities, but at the moment he's restricted to very basic ones. Now, he would be learning and training and trying to get stronger as time would go on, and it would be beneficial for him, but he would never get to like a crazy high level in terms of like being good at certain things, right? He doesn't have like a leveling system or anything like that, but he would kind of get to the point where he's able to do quite a few different cantrips or different spells, but he's not able to, like, you know, blow up buildings or anything like that, because that's not really the point of his quirk. Now, this would lead on until he's around 15 years old, where he would be kind of just awaiting his teacher to speak about this so-called job test of some sorts. And the teacher would eventually tell everybody that, hey, like, we all know that nobody wants to do these regular jobs. Like, we all know that they want to be a hero. So blah, 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 blah. And he eventually just tells them, hey, it seems like all you guys want to be a hero. So that's all that he's going to worry about. Throwing the papers in the air and so on and so forth. And of course, this would lead to everybody cheering and saying, oh, this is great. Like, oh, I can't believe like this is the case, blah, 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 right? So obviously Izuku is happy to hear this, and he is called out eventually as one of the people that are trying to get into UA alongside Katsuki Bakugo. And Bakugo would be mad about this, saying that someone as useless as Deku will not be able to get in there. I mean, all he does is play the violin. Like, he's not, what does he think this is, music school? And Izuku tells him that it's so much more than just that, and he knows it. He knows that it's so much more than just playing the violin, that he has and is capable of doing so many different things, in which Izuku would kind of snicker a little bit, laughing a little bit, you know, laugh at Bakugo just a little bit. And Bakugo tells him he better not do that vicious mockery crap ever again to him, and in which Izuku raises his hands and says, hey man, I'm not doing anything, but you might want to look over there. In which Bakugo would turn to see this like scary looking, or like minorly scary looking dog right in his face, basically barking at him, in which Bakugo would flinch and shoot an explosion at it, thinking like, oh, what the, like, it would surprise him. But then the dog would just disappear into nothingness, and Izuku would start laughing, in which the class would actually laugh as well. And everybody would say that they can't believe that freaking Izuku really got him with a minor illusion. In which the teacher says, hey, like, don't be doing those in the classroom, blah, blah, blah. But everyone does kind of laugh at the fact that Bakugo looked real stupid while doing that. In which he kind of, you know, shrugs his shoulders, or Izuku shrugs his shoulders, and is kind of like, yeah, I mean, you know, like, he started it, blah, blah, blah. But nonetheless, though, Izuku would feel pretty good about going to UA and feel pretty good about what's to come. Now, he continues to try and learn about these like so-called spells that he could get, and he basically does have some basic spells or basic usage of certain spells, but it's really hard to gain knowledge of them when you are kind of at that base level and you have no one to learn from. But still, his quirk definitely helps him a massive deal with learning some of these spells, because it's kind of like he feels attracted to utilizing some different spells. He doesn't really know how to explain it, but it's kind of like when he thinks about it, he can kind of tell himself, oh, is that something that I could actually do or actually use? And so on and so forth, right? When he comes up with a new idea, he could basically implement it, and his own body would basically tell him if it's possible or not. And that's how he would eventually learn how to basically disguise himself or make minor illusions. Because one day he was thinking that, oh, you know, it'd be so cool being able to like copy myself or make a minor illusion, make an illusion where people think that it's me, or make an illusion thinking it's something else. And that's what he thinks of. He's like, oh, you know what? Let me try that. And it works. But the thing is he has to kind of do this trial and error over and over again. And he sometimes would have to get real specific with certain techniques or certain spells that he has no idea how to do. I mean, he's utilizing it through his violin for the most part. And yeah, it's a pretty difficult thing for him to learn just from like a base value. But it's definitely helpful that he's kind of really good at brainstorming and finding out new things on his own. This would then lead to him just writing things in his journal and heading home, and he would head under a bridge just like normal. And as he would head under this bridge, he would be confronted by who we know as the sludge villain. The sludge villain would come busting out of a manhole cover and tell him that he's going to need his body, that he's going to this and that, he's going to basically take over Izuku. But Izuku kind of tells him that he looks kind of dumb, that honestly he should just go back into the hole that he found, and he should just go back down there right now, because this right here is not a good idea for him, like not one bit. Izuku would play his violin a little bit, and then he would put his hands around his face, and he would say that all this guy looks like is some green garbage and absolute disgusting filth, and he should go back into the sewer where he belongs. In which he does that, and this ray of array of like beams would come smashing off of everything and land toward the sludge villain. It would be kind of odd, but the sludge villain would feel like a massive headache and would be extremely kind of injured by this. But as he does, he begins running at Izuku. But as he runs at Izuku, Izuku's able to just walk by him, just slipping right by and dodging the sludge villain. As he dodges him extremely easily, as the sludge villain would tumble out of the tunnel and slam into the wall. It seems like Izuku was able to use vicious mockery to a great extent, sabotaging the first attack that the sludge villain would make on Izuku. Izuku would run outside just to get better leverage, and he would pull out a bow and try to shoot it directly at the eye of the sludge villain, landing one arrow, blinding the sludge villain at least temporarily. Izuku would make an illusion of himself by the entrance of the tunnel once again. But as he does this, someone comes out of a manhole cover as well, being that of All Might, as he would punch toward Izuku's illusion, but also punch toward the sludge villain, knocking the sludge villain into pieces and knocking him everywhere. But immediately All Might would realize that he just hit a kid. Oh my goodness, he just hurt him. No way. How's the kid? Where'd the kid go? Oh no. And then he realizes that the kid is gone. I mean, he just disappeared. Did All Might just kill a kid? No, of course not. That was an illusion. And Izuku comes back down and says, and tells the person that did it, which eventually he would learn to be All Might, which would shock him entirely. He would tell him that, oh, don't worry, like that was just one of my spells. In which All Might would be completely taken back by this. I mean, seriously, like this is wild. And All Might would say that it was very impressive what he was able to do. He must have an awesome quirk. In which Izuku says that he thinks it's pretty cool, but I mean, he's not here to brag, but he's kind of here to brag. In which Izuku would pat All Might on the shoulder, saying that it's good to see him. I mean, he's a big fan, and he's sure that All Might is going to be a big fan of himself one day. So it's good to meet him now. In which All Might would be extremely friendly with Izuku, giving him an autograph and telling him like, oh, he can't wait to see what he can do in UA and stuff like that as they collect the goo of the sludge villain. It seems like Izuku actually used one of his cantrips, utilizing something known as the Friends cantrip on All Might, to basically make him super friendly and guarantee that he gets an autograph from him. But it is kind of funny because All Might acts like they have been best friends forever, and basically like saying like, oh, I can't wait to see you again, have a good day, blah blah blah, like all this stuff. Say hi to your mom for me, and all this other things like that. Which All Might would eventually think to himself later on, like when he's back at home, like why did I say those things? Like I don't even know who his mother is. In which Izuku would find hilarious, as All Might will basically jump away and be extremely friendly and say all these friendly things to him, like I said, like they were best friends. Now that the sludge villain is all under capture, Izuku can now go home and just chill at home and wait till begin his training once again. And during this time, he has 10 months to obviously train for the UA entrance exam, which is, let's be honest, quite a while. And he begins to train different things that he feels would be beneficial for himself and many others. He learns that his technique, he has a technique known as bardic inspiration, which can be used for a song of rest, which would replenish his own stamina, his own durability, and all of the above. So if he has let's say like an injury and he utilizes the bardic inspiration of rest, he can actually heal himself up, and then he gets it all back the next day depending on the rest itself. Now, it seems like he needs to pick and choose when he does that very, very, very well, because he doesn't want to waste them in a day, because you never know, right? But it'd be good for training, right? You train half the day, then you use the bardic inspiration and you can still train more, and then you go to sleep and replenish it once again. This would give Izuku a lot of time during the 10-month period to learn different spells, in which some of the spells he would learn would be a lot of just positive attribute spells for himself. One of them being that of Long Strider, which would allow him to actually be quite a bit faster than normal, than his obviously normal self. And then he will also learn how to speak with animals and befriend animals as well, making it so that the animal or the creature would actually be kind of his companion to a certain extent. Now, there are some other things that he learns. He actually learns how to basically move things around without actually touching them, utilizing something known as a mage hand. But there's some other stuff that he really doesn't get into because he doesn't really know much about. But the last thing he would really learn in terms of just some extra type of strength or basically an extra type of utility, giving him more powers, would be that one day his mother would actually cut herself on accident, and Izuku would actually think like, oh, maybe I should play the Song of Rest and that would heal her. But he thinks to himself, well, if he has a Song of Rest that heals people or gives them, stamina back, or gives them kind of like stuff that would allow them to more or less heal or, gain kind of a little bit more of their health back, then why wouldn't he be able to heal people in general? So he decides that he's going to try that. And he tries to do that one day, especially when his mother got a little cut, and tells her that he's going to try something, in which he plays his violin and sings like a very small little like note of a song. And as he does this, a green and blue trail would emanate from him, headed toward his mother. And once it would land on her, her wounds would heal entirely. Since it was a minor injury, it wasn't anything crazy. It didn't have to be like, something insane. Like it didn't have to, or it wasn't like it was going to just heal her a little bit. Now, if she was extremely injured, it would heal her, but there'll probably be leftover kind of injuries because his strength isn't high enough to fully heal somebody entirely, right? So, of course, there's a bit of a push and pull. But he does think about this and thinks, well, if he could heal, then there probably is quite a few other things he can do as well that he really needs to think about. So Izuku just writes down all of the stuff he can do and all the potential stuff that he wants to try to do in the future. And this is good for Izuku because, frankly, Izuku is one of these people that he will brainstorm, he will think, he will try to come up with new ideas and new ways to actually utilize his bardic inspiration and also his bardic powers. So it's perfect that Izuku got something like this, especially because he studies quirks and everything to its fullest extent. But eventually the 10 months would eventually be over, and it would lead him to actually being ready to take on the UA entrance exam. Now, Izuku himself is a pretty smart dude. His intelligence is pretty good, so he would easily be able to do the written portion of the exam on minor studying. Like, honestly, he doesn't need to study very much. He can actually get a mind for everything that's happening and understand everything that's happening very easily. So once he's able to do all that, and once he's able to understand all that, the practical is the only thing to really worry about. During this time, he would enhance himself using Long Strider and anything that he feels personally that would benefit him. And he does realize he has to kind of enhance himself every single time that he goes out for the day, right? It lasts all the way until the end of the day, where he would sleep for 8 hours, wake up the next morning, and it would be gone. So he needs to make sure that he, benefits himself or makes it so that he's strong enough during the day. Now, this would lead to the practical, and the practical would be kind of difficult for Izuku Midoriya. He is decently strong, don't get me wrong, like just in raw physical strength, he is decently strong from just the training and stuff like that. But in terms of kind of everything else, it makes it kind of hard for Izuku, because destroying these robots is no easy task. He goes in, maybe destroys a couple, a few here and there, but honestly, he starts running behind. He might be as fast as some of these people, if not faster, outside of some of these speed-like Quirk users, but he still takes a while to destroy some of these kind of robots. He would try to shoot arrows and use his rapier and stuff like that, but even that, it would be pretty difficult. So he would try his best to destroy the robots, but it's obvious that he's falling behind. And eventually the 0-point robot would come out of nowhere, and the 0-point robot would be towering over everybody, and Izuku begins to run away. But then he would hear a girl call out for help, and that girl is Ochako Uraraka. Izuku would see this, and he would run over immediately running over and trying to help her. And he would enhance her with Long Strider, making it so she's a little faster, and he would use Healing Word to basically heal her just enough to where her leg isn't actually hurting as much, and she could run on it if she needs to. Izuku would tell her that she needs to utilize her quirk now, in which he uses Bardic Inspiration basically to give her a little bit more of a boost. Izuku would watch as she levitates the things off of her, or the rubble off of her, as the 0-point robot is growing near. He would pick her up and put her arm around his shoulder and would begin to run with her, as she would realize that they are a little bit faster and a little bit lighter, as Izuku would cast something known as Feather Fall and begin to jump, as it would basically float them a little bit farther, or a good bit farther really, than normal, in which he was able to get her out of harm's way as the timer would sound and the 0-point robot would stop entirely. Izuku would get her to Recovery Girl, but Recovery Girl would even say that it looks like to me that she doesn't really need much healing, as Recovery Girl would kiss her on the forehead and she would be healed up in an instant and wouldn't even be that tired. Izuku would say that's good to hear, and Recovery Girl would ask if he needs healing, but Izuku would strum his violin one time and all of his wounds and little bruises and stuff like that would be gone, in which Recovery Girl would think this is, wow, that's awesome, asking him questions about certain things he can do, in which Izuku says that it is limited and it's hard to maintain, and he seems to not have as many spell casting abilities as he would like, just in a certain portion of a day, but they're still beneficial. And he's able to basically heal people. He's able to actually do some other things as well, like sleeping people, but he's able to make himself quicker, others quicker, and also make people really like him, like be friends with him. In which, of course, she would be a little confused by this, like, what does that even mean? Like, what do you mean be friends with you? In which he says, like, he has a spell that he could do that. Now, he won't do that. I mean, it'll probably only be beneficial really against villains. But yeah, if he wanted to make her, think that they're best friends, he could do that. In which Recovery Girl would be completely taken back by this, thinking that is absolutely insane. Like, she wants to see it, but at the same time doesn't want to see it because she doesn't want to be put under a spell of some sorts. In which Izuku would tell her that the spell doesn't last very long, but yeah, don't worry about all that. There's no reason to show that here and now. But he does say that, he is able to heal to a certain extent, and she says that he is very impressive. Like, it's very impressive what he's capable of doing, in which he would nod his head and thank her very much. Izuku would eventually leave and await his letter from UA, but he would be nervous. And, I mean, he has full and an utter right to be nervous, because, to be honest, a robot versus robot situation, or a robot versus person situation, is not what he really was hoping for. And to be honest, he was not prepared for that at all. He realizes very quickly that in terms of raw power, he kind of has very little of it. Everything that he can do that is good is based on actually fighting human beings. So he thinks to himself, while he's waiting for his letter to come, that what is he supposed to do? What kind of thing is he supposed to do? What kind of powers or spells will he have to come up with? And eventually Izuku thinks to himself and then kind of just brainstorms ideas. first he starts with like a fireball, but then realizes that he's gonna struggle trying to do something like that. And then he tries to study more and looks up different spells that would fit him personally, that would like fit the mantra of being a bard. And eventually he thinks of a couple, right? And these couple would be one known as what he would deem as Shatter, which would be more of a kind of like a mental thing, but also a physical thing as well, shattering the kind of mental psyche of somebody. But then he would realize that this shatter of some sorts would be extremely hard to pull off as well. He would try to pull it off on a tree, and yeah, it would shatter the tree, but it would be very tiring to utilize. So he writes it down as something that he should put on the back burner. And then another one he thinks of is something like maybe like an AoE type of spell, an area of effects type of spell, in which he would utilize something known as Cloud of Daggers, which would basically have these daggers or sharp objects spinning around in like a tornado-like fashion in one place. And this is another thing that takes a lot out of him. And eventually he would also come up with a couple more ideas, and he would write them down as potential ideas, being that of maybe something like blindness, or something like something that could cancel out quirks, which he has no idea how that would work just yet, but it's something that he wants to think about, at least for the time being. Now, with that said, he would finally get the letter from UA, and when he would get that letter, he would look to see that he got into UA. Yes, he got in. So he actually sees that he got into UA, though, based on something known as rescue or hero points. And these hero or rescue points were from saving Ochako Uraraka. And on top of that, it just squeaked him enough into, well, Class 1A. So he's excited about this, extremely excited about this. And finally, when he would arrive at UA for the first time, well, it's not what he expected it to be. Yes, he got berated by Bakugo, and yes, everybody's excited, and even Ochako would run up to him and thank him profusely about what he did. But eventually, the one and only Aizawa would show his face, and he would be able to, or he would tell everybody like, hey, it's time to wake up, it's time to get ready, because now, well, it's time to actually work. It's time to actually do your jobs. And he tells them all that orientation is basically only there to celebrate them, and he doesn't care one bit about celebrating them. He wants all of them to understand that it's not this simple. It's never going to be this simple, and life is hard. Life is going to be difficult, and they all need to understand that. So they're going to do a quirk assessment that's going to involve many different things: throwing a ball, running as fast as possible, side steps, grip strength, and stuff like that, in which eventually, after Izuku throws the ball, and it really doesn't go that far, it goes decently far, but it's nowhere near some of these other people like Momo, who could shoot out of a cannon basically, and then also maybe like Ochako or even Bakugo, who Bakugo would throw it pretty far, and Ochako would throw it infinity, but at the end of the day, he would throw it kind of mediocre. In terms of speed, he would be on the faster side, and in terms of side steps and stuff like that, and in terms of grip strength, he would be pretty decently strong. It would basically place him in the middle of the pack, like dead center of everybody else, maybe a little bit higher, maybe that like toward the maybe top 10, but at the same time, it would be not very impressive. Izuku would truly be impressive, though, very soon when they would do their heroes versus villains training, because that is when things would shake up drastically. Because when they do a heroes versus villains training, Izuku would be going head to head with Bakugo, or against Bakugo and Tenya Ida, with Ochako Uraraka on his side. And he would basically tell her that they're going to do this very easily, in which Izuku would tell her to not worry and to be prepared, because they're going to have some good fun with this. Izuku would look at her and would basically would shrug his shoulders as basically 5 minutes would be up, and he would tap her on the forehead as both of them would go invisible. in which everybody would be shocked to see this, asking, well, where are they? Were they gonna go in, or what's happening? Like, seriously. In which Bakugo would stand there as he's looking for them and thinking, well, they must have been, you know, smart enough to avoid him or run away. But as Bakugo stands there and as Tenya Ida stands there, well, the alarm would go off and they would say, well, it seems like the hero team has won. In which everyone would stand there like, what do you mean the hero team has won? In which All Might would say that the sensors went off, that they touched the bomb, as Izuku would wave his hand and both of them would become visible once again, standing behind Tenya Ida while they're both touching the bomb at the same time. Izuku would say that it seems like they weren't prepared for something more in his ballpark, because raw power, raw speed, that might not be his thing, but doing hero work, doing the thing that they're actually here to be prepared for, that's his thing. Izuku tells them that he might not be the strongest in raw power right now, but he's going to tell them straight up and right off the bat that in terms of, well, situations like these, there is nobody better than him. In which All Might would congratulate them when they all go through. All Might would tell them that not conflicting or having conflict with the villain is a pretty good thing. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're able to avoid conflict, that's very good. And if you can capture the bomb without even having a scratch on you, shoot, that is just as good as if you knocked them out and, you know, captured them of some sorts, you know what I mean? And basically All Might praises them for this, and it tells Izuku that it seems like he has a good future in being a rescue-like hero and having a good future on missions just like these. But what Izuku doesn't know is that his powers and his strengths and his weaknesses are all going to be put to the test very soon when they go off to the USJ, the rescue facility, right? They're going to go to the USJ and he's going to be tested beyond belief. Everybody else has quirks that involve more or less raw strength or raw power or stuff like that, or even raw speed. But Izuku's best portion is going to be basically rescue training. But what's going to happen is going to surprise everybody, because this rescue training is going to flip to a life or death situation faster than you can possibly imagine, when the USJ would be invaded, as the heroes and as the future heroes or the students would walk up into the USJ and they would be talking to Pro Hero 13 and Aizawa about what they're going to do today. It seems that portals would begin to open and villains would pour out, and Izuku Midoriya and his violin with his rapier and bow on his side, it seems like now this will be the next challenge for Izuku Midoriya to test out what he's truly capable of. Now, what will happen in this USJ invasion by the League of Villains? Well, you're going to have to find out in the next part of What If Deku Had a Bard Quirk. And if you enjoyed, show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below. All that good stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I was really excited about this video or this series, so I hope you guys enjoyed as well. And yeah, I'm excited for the series, and nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoyed. And yeah, that's all I got to say. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.